Hey everybody, how's it going? Drew here. I keep seeing this article circulate the guitar spaces on the interwebs, and it's a quote from prolific indie artist Mac Demarco, where he says that we should take all of the effects pedals and throw them into a pile and burn them. And so I thought I would make a little video on this article and talk with you guys about it, and you guys can share your opinion, and we can try to find out together why he would make a comment like this. For those of you who aren't familiar with Mac Demarco, he is a Canadian singer-songwriter, indie artist, and producer. Been around since probably like 2009. He's associated with a lot of great musical acts. Thundercat, J.D. Beck. The guy is prolific, meaning that he has a lot of works to date. You know, dozens of recordings, demos, EPs. I think he has 8 studio albums. His most recent studio album is an 8-hour, 199-track album. He basically went on a road trip from New York to LA, where he lives, and recorded this album and brought along reportedly $20,000 worth of recording equipment and made this epically long album. That's kind of interesting. It's kind of cool. His music is not really for me. It's not like my favorite kind of music. I'm more of a metalhead. Occasionally I'll listen to some shoegaze and some vaporwave just to mix things up, but in general, metal and high information music like jazz and improvised music is primarily what I'm into. But I've heard a few Mac Demarco songs. They're pretty cool, pretty interesting. I think his most popular song right now is called Here Comes the Cowboy, and it's literally just him saying Here Comes the Cowboy over and over again in the song. Very strange song. With that introduction, let's get into this article. I'm going to read you the article. I'll read you a couple headlines, and then I'll share my thoughts on it, and then in the comments below, maybe you guys can share your thoughts on what this is all about. So here is the quote. It's right on the top of Guitar World here. It says, "All the pedals should be put in a big pile and we should light them on fire. Mac Demarco is synonymous with woozy vibrato guitar, but he hates pedals." So what a headline that is. Very interesting. This article is really good, and it's written by the editor-in-chief of Guitar World magazine. And there's even a little video here if you want to see the type of gear that Mac Demarco uses on his recordings and what he uses live. So the guy loves gear, obviously, but apparently he hates effects pedals. So I actually prefer this article from Stereogum. Stereogum is like the type of news outlet that would cover artists like this. It's kind of like Pitchfork. Occasionally they'll talk about metal stuff, but most of the time they're talking about indie pop kind of stuff. Here's how the article goes. It starts off with, Mac Demarco is the subject of the latest cover story in Music Tech magazine. The feature focuses on how Demarco recorded his new instrumental album, 5 Easy Hot Dogs. Kind of a funny title, right? On a cross-country road trip. It notes that Demarco traveled with an impressive collection of gear worth over $20,000, including a keyboard that played a crucial role in the recordings. The Mini Moog was the lead singer of the record. I'm so glad I took him along. But despite his accumulation of nice equipment, Demarco is moving away from one type of device, effects pedals. At first, Demarco explains that he's growing disinterested in running sounds through effects in general. He says, "I don't really buy gear anymore. I've got pretty much every super famous old preamp now, a couple consoles, every really old fancy mic you could ever want. I have a lot of nice shit. Nice tape machines and synthesizers, nice guitars, you know. But I think that less is more for me at this point." So right away, the vibe that I'm picking up on is that Mac Demarco has ascended into this place where he's using really fancy, really nice equipment. And good for him, man. Like, wouldn't we all like to use, you know, original Telefunken mics and U47s and Teletronics compressors and Neve consoles? Like, he's got all that stuff now. So it's no wonder to me that he doesn't want to use effects pedals, which are crappy, according to him. So that makes a lot of sense to me. Mac Demarco has finally built his dream studio that he can travel on the road with, and he doesn't need to use interesting dirt boxes like this one. So the article goes on, and it's still a quote, and it says, "I didn't use a computer to record until like 2016 or 17. And at first I was like, okay, here we go. we'll put this effect on here, we'll do this. And pretty quickly, I realized I should just really limit myself. I don't know. I like getting the sound at the microphone instead of buying more gear. I'd rather just move the mic around or record in a different room. That's what is more interesting to me now. Okay, and now here is the big quote, the one that has turned the internet upside down, or at least among pedal heads upside down. He elaborates that guitar pedals in particular are on the shit list. He says, "They're stupid. They're cheap pieces of shit with crappy electronics. It's just crap in the path. I don't like crap. I don't care if it makes you sound like Jimi Hendrix or whatever. I don't want it. I don't want it. It just stresses me out thinking about it and the cables that people use in between them. Oh man. And then the power, crappy. Everything's crappy. It's just crappy. And I don't want them crapping up my shit. No crap." Although he concedes he's using a small pedal board on tour right now, including a tuner, vibrato pedal, and an impressive response effect for his acoustic guitar, he rejects sound goodizer pedals categorically, and the pedals should be put in a pile and we should light them on fire. Don't expect Mac Demarco to make a trendy shoegaze record anytime soon. Has shoegaze ever been trendy? I don't know. It seems like it's primarily been an underground genre, but I'm sure the writer of this article knows that. There you go, guys. There's the article. You know, Guitar World kind of elaborates on this, and the editor-in-chief of Guitar World seems to think that Mac Demarco recently had some kind of situation where his pedal board wasn't working live. I mean, we've all been there, trying to, you set up and you do sound check, everything works fine, you come back to your rig and there's a patch cable that doesn't work and you can't figure out what it is, and the promoter running the show is telling you to start right now, get things going, the crowd is waiting for you to start playing music, and your pedal board is crapped out and you gotta troubleshoot something. There's nothing more nerve-wracking and sweat-inducing than a situation like that. Okay, just to bring some different thoughts together around these articles. To me, it's no surprise that Mac Demarco doesn't enjoy playing pedals or thinks they're crappy, because he's using the nicest high-end analog gear that there is, okay? As a guitar player, part of getting your own sound is, putting together a pedal collection, or if you're a Helix user or an Axe-Fx user, putting together an epic signal chain that becomes like the staple of your sound, right? Mac Demarco just doesn't like to make music that way, so that's his choice, that's his prerogative. For me personally, I don't really use any outboard gear with the exception of my amplifier and effects pedals. That's how I create my metal music, is I use interesting dirt boxes. These are inspiring to me, and I create riffs with them. I mean, I'm a metal guitarist, and I will probably always be a metal guitar player, but that's a big part of the creation process, is how can I create an interesting high gain sound that's going to be sort of like my voice for this next record. The music itself and the lyrics are the voice, but the guitar tone is important to me, and I try to come up with something that is different from what anybody else is using in the current day. Another thing I wanted to point out is that Mac Demarco is a prolific musician. I mean, the guy has come out with albums pretty much every year since 2009, and he's collaborated with some of the biggest names in music. And I think for him, making music and then taking those songs and playing on tour, that is the most important thing to him. It's not what pedal he's playing through on a recording. I don't think he really cares about that. I think if there's a sound that he wants, he can easily get it for the purpose of the recording. There's part of me that really appreciates that. The focus should be on music creation, guys, like not on how big your pedal collection is. Unless you're a guitar hobbyist and owning a bunch of pedals is important to me. I own about 20 pedals. They're really fun. They're great. I buy a lot of them so that I can show you guys what they sound like on YouTube. But in general, my sound comes down to just a couple pedals. And if that gets in the way of the music that I'm creating, I'd rather just record with Helix Native and just use the plugins to come up with music. But as I mentioned earlier, effects pedals are really fun to me and a big part of how I create sounds. The other thing I wanted to say is, I've met musicians and guitar players that have tons of equipment. They buy new guitars all the time. They change up their amp. They sell all their pedals and get an Axe-Fx, right? And I've kind of been that guy before. But the most important thing is, what are you making with the equipment that you have, okay? And I think there's a lesson to be learned. Do you really need to buy that $350 germanium fuzz pedal? What if you took that $350 and put that into promoting your own music and your record, or paying someone to mix your recording so that it sounds really good, right? I would rather put my money there than just keep buying pedals and effects and things like that. And I think there's there's some option paralysis that comes into place with gear and equipment, and I think you simply have to choose a direction to go in with this. At some point you have to pick a direction and go with it, or pick a sound and go in that direction and use that to create music. Okay, so in conclusion, let's learn from this quote and let's try to look at ourselves under the microscope a little bit with this quote. Of course, Mac Demarco doesn't care about effects pedals. He's got all of the equipment he could ever need to record his music. And guitar players, we do kind of obsess with effects and tone, right? At the end of the day, I would look at what are you actually producing with what tones you already have. With the tone that you already have, what are you making? Okay, and so my encouragement to you would be to make some music. And look, I'm speaking to myself at the same time, okay? I'm a YouTuber, guitar player, guitar teacher. I play in a couple different bands. I have a lot of music that I've started working on that I haven't put out yet, but it's coming soon, okay? And I just wanted to throw that out there. I'm encouraging you guys to create some of your own music, but I'm also telling that to myself, like, let's just stop with the obsession with pedals and effects, and let's focus on creating some music. So take that for what it is. Hopefully that helps some of you guys. Mac Demarco, he can afford himself the ability to make a comment like that that's gonna piss a bunch of people off, especially us guitar players that love our little dirt boxes, right? All that to say, have a fantastic day wherever you're at, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.